The Sleeping Kingdom Beneath the Ice. A Moondrift Sleep Story. Hello, my friend. Welcome back. I am so glad you found your way here tonight. My name is Michael, and as always, it is my quiet privilege to be with you at the end of your day, to be the voice that walks beside you as everything else begins to soften and fall away. Tonight, we are going somewhere few people have ever truly been. Not a place you can drive to, or book a flight toward, or find on any map drawn in recent centuries. We are going somewhere older than maps, older than the names we have given to things. We are going somewhere beneath the ice. There is a kingdom down there, you see. It has been sleeping for a very long time. Not in one single vault, not in one sealed chamber, but in layers, in accumulated time, in the slow, compressed record of everything that has ever happened in a place so cold and so remote and so indifferent to human urgency that it simply keeps what it is given, keeps it the way that only ice and dark and deep cold can keep things perfectly, patiently, without the slightest intention of giving it back. And tonight, just tonight, we are going to find our way to its edge, and we are going to rest there, in the quiet and the cold and the impossible, beautiful light that moves above it like a slow green dream. We are going to let its stillness find us, and somewhere in that stillness, you will find sleep. Deep, unhurried, extraordinary sleep. But first, let's arrive here together. Feel the weight of yourself against whatever holds you tonight. Your bed, your pillow, the chair you have curled into, the blanket pulled up to your chin. Feel the surface beneath you, accepting that weight, without complaint, without condition, just holding you the way the earth has always held everything placed upon it, quietly, completely, without needing to be asked. It was doing this before you arrived, and it will continue long after you are asleep, and it does not require your awareness to keep doing it. That is the nature of support. It does not need to be noticed to be real. Take a slow breath now. Not a performed breath, not a dramatically deep breath, just a full one. Let the air move all the way in, all the way to the bottom of your lungs. Let it travel into the places where breath rarely gets to go, and then let it go. Just let it go, without hurrying it, without pushing, just allowing the exhale to complete itself at its own pace. Feel what happens at the very end of that exhale, that small giving in, that fractional surrender at the base of the breath, that moment when the body has released as much as it knows how to release and rests, briefly and completely, before deciding to breathe in again. That little rest, within the rest, that is the body remembering it is allowed to stop, it is allowed to soften, that this is, in fact, what it has been waiting for all day. The day is finished. Whatever it held, however it felt to move through it, whatever it asked of you and whatever you gave it, it is behind you now. You do not need to review it tonight. You do not need to carry it further, to work at it, to prepare for tomorrow by thinking very hard about today. The thinking can stop now. You may set it all down, the way a traveler sets down a very heavy pack at a threshold feeling, for just a moment. The extraordinary lightness of nothing left to carry, and simply walk through without it. You are here, now. That is all that is required. Let us begin. There is a particular kind of silence that exists nowhere else on earth but in the deep Arctic winter. And if you have never stood inside it, you cannot quite imagine it from the outside. It is not the absence of sound the way a quiet room is the absence of sound. It is something more absolute than that. Something with mass and presence and edges. A silence that presses gently against the skin the way cool water does when you step into a still lake, felt everywhere at once, entered slowly, adjusting to you even as you adjust to it. This silence is the sound of a world so cold that everything non-essential has been stripped away. Every sound that did not have a reason to persist has long since departed. What remains in that silence is only the most fundamental things. The slow, deep creak of ice shifting its enormous weight as the temperature drops another fraction of a degree and the freezing advances another millimeter into the water's edge. The faint whisper of snow crystals moving across a frozen surface in a wind so light it barely qualifies as wind, and yet so precise in its action that each individual grain of ice, each perfect hexagonal crystal, barely 2 millimeters across, catches the cold air and turns and moves and makes that sound, that breath-thin sighing. That sound like something very far away, trying to say something. It doesn't quite have the strength to finish. And above it all, the vast overhead dark of the polar night, which is not truly dark at all, because on a clear night at this latitude, the stars hang so close and so numerous that the snow below them catches their light and throws it back upward, and the whole world glows, faintly, continuously, in a blue-white luminescence that has no single source, and seems to come from everywhere at once, as if the ground itself is faintly lit from within. And then, if you are very lucky, if the sun has been restless in recent days, if the solar wind has been strong, if the magnetic conditions high above the Arctic are exactly right, the sky begins to move. It begins as a faint brightening at the horizon, a green that is not quite green the way summer grass is green, something cooler, more electric, more alive, a green that seems to be aware of itself in a way that ordinary color is not. It pulses once, as if testing itself, as if deciding whether to continue, and then it continues. It rises, slowly at first, in long arcing sheets that bend and sway with the fluid, entirely unhurried grace curtains of light that ripple without any visible source of wind, as if the sky itself has been drawn aside and something behind it is breathing. The green deepens at its core and pales at its edges, and where it thins and spreads and mixes with the cold nitrogen high in the atmosphere, it touches blue, it touches violet. At the lower edge of the curtain, where the light is brightest and most energetic, a narrow band of purple makes itself known, precise as a brushstroke, fleeting as a thought. And occasionally, high and rare and brief, when conditions conspire just right, the aurora flares to scarlet or red, so deep and strange and unexpected that ancient people seeing it for the first time believed it to be blood in the sky, believed it to be an omen of war, believed it to be the gods themselves in some state of great agitation. The science of the aurora is one of the most beautiful pieces of knowledge human beings have ever assembled, and it does not make the lights any less extraordinary. If anything, it makes them more so. Here is what is actually happening above you, in that slow green fire. The sun, 93 million miles away, is constantly releasing a stream of charged particles into space electrons and protons, energized fragments of solar storms that flow outward in all directions through the solar system in what is called the solar wind. This wind reaches Earth continuously, a plasma breath from our star that never entirely stops. On most days, it arrives and is turned aside by the planet's magnetic field, deflected harmlessly around the sphere of the atmosphere, but not at the poles. At the poles, The magnetic field lines curve inward, funnel downward toward the surface of the Earth like an invisible intake, and there, precisely there, above the Arctic, those solar particles are guided in. Rather than turned away, they descend. They follow the field lines down into the upper atmosphere, somewhere between 60 and 200 miles above the ground. And when they arrive, they collide with oxygen and nitrogen atoms in those extraordinarily thin upper layers of air. And in those collisions, the atoms receive energy. They have no other way of spending, so they release it as light. Oxygen glows green. Oxygen, at very high altitude, glows red. Nitrogen gives you the blue and the purple and the ghost violet that flickers along the lower edges of auroral curtains, like something being whispered just below the threshold of hearing. Every color in the aurora is a direct signature of a specific element at a specific altitude, releasing a specific energy, a precise fingerprint of atomic physics, playing out on a planetary scale, miles above your head. When you stand beneath the aurora and watch it move, you're watching the mathematics of the universe expressing itself in visible light. You're watching the sun's breath become color. You are watching physics become something that makes perfectly reasonable, scientifically literate people cry. The Sami people, the indigenous inhabitants of northern Scandinavia, who have lived under these lights for thousands of years across the territories that carry the names of Norway and Sweden and Finland and Russia, knew something essential about the aurora that science took considerably longer to arrive at in its own vocabulary. They knew it deserved respect. They called it Guavsahas, and they believed, in a way that carried the weight of 10,000 winters behind it, that what moved in that sky was not empty. The lights were the souls of those who had gone before, moving across the last boundary between the living world and whatever came after it, and to draw attention to yourself while they moved was to risk being noticed and being taken. Parents hurried children indoors when the aurora appeared. The old people of the community grew very quiet and very watchful. Whistling was forbidden. Singing was forbidden. Waving your arms was something you simply did not do. Traditional Sami belief states, with a clarity born from long coexistence with something genuinely beyond ordinary experience, that auroras are living beings who talk and understand speech. This is why you were supposed to be quiet when they appeared. Not out of superstition, the belief system that produced this instruction was not superstitious, but observational, built from generations of careful attention to a world more complex than any single human lifetime could encompass, but out of a kind of reverence. The same reverence you might feel standing at the edge of something enormous and active and indifferent to your scale. The Finnish word for the aurora is rivantulet, which means fire fox, and the story behind it is one of the most quietly beautiful things language has ever done with a natural phenomenon. The legend holds that a great Arctic fox runs across the fell tops in the polar dark, running so fast that it's enormous. Bushy tail drags along the mountainsides, and the snow-covered slopes and raises sparks from the frozen stone, and those sparks fly upward into the sky and become the lights. The extraordinary thing about this story is that Arctic fox fur, in the extreme dryness of Arctic winter air, genuinely produces small sparks of static electricity when it moves. The ancient Sami, watching their foxes move against a dark sky, were watching a real thing and finding the story inside it, the way people always have, whenever they pay close enough attention to the world. In Norse mythology, the aurora carried a different quality entirely. The Vikings, who settled Iceland and Greenland, who spent their long winter nights under some of the most spectacular auroral displays. The planet produces interpreted the moving lights as the armor and the spears of the pros. Valkyries, the supernatural warrior women of Norse belief, riders on horseback who moved across the sky after every battle, choosing among the fallen which souls were worthy of Valhalla. The shimmering green curtains were the reflection of their shields. The bright, sudden surges were their spears passing close. When the northern sky lit up above the longhouses, Viking warriors did not go inside to hide. They celebrated. Because if the Valkyries rode, it meant the fallen were being honored, were being collected, were being carried somewhere worthy of them. Other Norse people believed the aurora was Bifrost itself, the burning rainbow bridge that connected Midgard, the realm of the living, to Asgard, the realm of the gods. That when the lights moved above the world, the bridge was open. That on certain nights, the worlds were thinned against each other, and the distance between here and somewhere else was only the width of a thought, only the length of a very slow, complete exhale. It is worth sitting with that for a moment. The idea that the sky above you, on a clear and cold and dark enough night, becomes a bridge. That the lights that move across it are not decoration, but passage. That somewhere on the other side of that moving green and violet light, there is something enormous and warm and welcoming. Hold that thought. We are going to need it. Now let us go north together. Let us travel north in imagination, which is the only vehicle that can take you to the places worth going tonight. Let us move through the long dark of the polar winter, where the sun has been below the horizon for weeks now, and will remain so for weeks more, where the only natural light in the world comes from the moon and the stars, and, on the best nights, from the aurora overhead. I want to tell you something about the polar night before we enter it fully, because people who have never lived inside it tend to imagine it as unrelentingly hostile, as something to endure rather than inhabit. And the darkness is extreme, there is no softening that. At the latitude of northern Greenland, above the Arctic Circle, the sun does not rise at all for months. The polar night, at its deepest, is absolute in a way that the darkest night at lower latitudes simply cannot be. Because at lower latitudes, the sky always holds some memory of the sun, some residual light, scattered through the atmosphere, even in the depths of night. At the pole, that memory is gone. The sun has gone below the horizon and stayed there, and the sky has no warmth in it, no hint of gold at the edge of anything for weeks on end. And yet the people who have lived in the polar night, who have built their entire cultures around its rhythms, who have developed over centuries an intimate and productive relationship with the long dark, describe it not as something to endure, but as a kind of presence, a quality of time that the lit world does not offer. The Norwegian word mørketid, the dark time, is not inherently negative in the way the English translation might suggest. It is a season, the same as any other season, with its own character and its own requirements and its own gifts. The dark slows things. It creates an interiority, a drawing in of attention from the wide and scattered world to the immediate and the close, the fire, the lamp, the faces of the people you share the enclosed winter space with, visible in the lamp's amber glow with a particular clarity that daylight obscures, every expression legible, every mood present and undeniable. The Inuit cultures that have thrived in the polar night for thousands of years were not surviving in spite of the darkness, but in relationship with it. The long winter nights were when the communal gatherings happened, when the quajik, the large communal house, was built and filled with people and filled with sound, when the drum dances took place, when the stories were told that could not be told in summer, the stories that belonged to the dark, the way certain animals belong to the sea. When the throat singers faced each other in the amber light, and the contest began, and the room listened, and eventually, someone laughed, and the whole room laughed with them. The dark was not only a physical condition to be managed, it was the season of the interior life. The season of music and story, and the close warmth of other people. The season, in a word, of rest. The polar night is called by many names in the languages of the people who have always lived inside it. In Norwegian, it is called mørketid, the dark time. The Icelandic language has words for the specific quality of light that exists at the very horizon on the longest days of polar darkness. When the sun approaches the edge of the world, closely enough to color the sky briefly in a low, reddish gold, without actually managing to rise, like someone lighting a candle in the room next door. The Inuit languages carry gradations of darkness that English simply cannot match. Distinctions between the dark of a clouded, moonless night and the dark of a clear, starred night and the dark of an aurora-lit sky above fresh snow. Each of them different enough to deserve its own word, each of them deserving attention. The darkness of the polar night is not frightening darkness, not the darkness of closed rooms or tight spaces. It is vast darkness, open darkness, a darkness so large it circles back on itself and becomes something almost peaceful, something you can settle into if you give yourself permission. The way you settle into deep water once the initial cold has passed and your body has accepted where it is. Inside the polar night, there is room for everything. Your thoughts, however large they have been feeling today, have ample space here. The dark can receive them without being crowded. You can let them go into it, and they will simply be absorbed, like sound into fog, without drama, without trace. The landscape of the high Arctic in winter is one of the most surreal environments this planet has produced, and it rewards the kind of slow, patient looking we rarely give anything. The snow is not white, or rather, it is white in the way that a clear diamond is clear. Not a single color, but all colors in suspension, ready to reflect whatever light is available with perfect faithfulness. Under starlight, it is silver blue, cool, and metallic. Under a full moon, it deepens to pewter, smooth, and slightly luminous. Under the aurora, it shifts color with the lights. First a green-gray, when the lights are quiet and distant, then edged with gold when they brighten, then flushed with violet when the solar wind increases and the rarer colors appear at the curtain's edges. The surface of the snow is not flat. Weeks of Arctic wind have carved it into sastrugi, those strange, beautiful ridges and troughs and sharply overhanging waves that make the tundra look like a frozen ocean, photographed at the exact peak of a storm. All movement arrested, all energy translated into permanent form. Some of these formations are sharp as broken glass at their crests. Others are rounded and soft as the sleeping shoulders of some very large and peaceful animal, the snow having been deposited gently and compressed by its own weight into organic curves. All of them catch the available light at different angles, so that the entire landscape glitters and shifts as you move through it and the aurora moves above it. The two movements, entirely independent, but producing between them a kind of continuous, liquid visual music. The air at this latitude in the depths of winter has its own particular physics, because the cold is not merely uncomfortable, it is transformative. Sound travels differently in extreme cold. The cold atmospheric layers bend sound waves in ways that do not occur at lower latitudes in certain conditions. Sounds from miles away arrive with a clarity and intimacy that makes them seem to come from just beside your ear. A raven, calling from a ridgeline half a mile distant, sounds like it is sitting on your shoulder, its voice precise and close. The shift and crack of sea ice forming in the bay below sounds like someone standing beside you and slowly tearing a length of very heavy cloth. And the Arctic produces sounds that exist nowhere else. The sound that very dry, very cold snow makes underfoot, which is not the familiar crunch of softer snow, but something higher and more precise, almost a note, as the ice crystals compress under weight and shear against each other in their millions, with a combined voice that travels up through the boot and says clearly, "This ground is real. This cold is real. This moment is completely, intensely real." And in the Arctic, there is a phenomenon that the people who have always lived there knew long before science confirmed it. On certain nights, during intense auroral displays, people standing at the surface have reported hearing sounds that coincide with the aurora's movements. Claps, crackling, a sound like static electricity from something enormous. Finnish researchers have recorded it. The mechanism is still being studied, but the current understanding suggests that the same electrical phenomena producing the visible aurora may also, under specific atmospheric conditions, produce sounds at very low altitudes within human hearing range, right there at ground level. The Sami always knew this was possible. Their traditional instruction not to make sounds under the aurora was perhaps also practically and precisely about being quiet enough to hear what the lights were saying, to receive what the sky was sending. Imagine being that still. Imagine standing in a landscape that complete and that silent, and being quiet enough, present enough, that you could hear the sky. Now, beneath you. This is where the story we are carrying tonight truly begins. Beneath the snow and the ice and the tundra that stretches in every direction under the aurora's breathing light, there is something very old, something that has not disappeared so much as become quiet, become still, become patient in a way that dwarfs every human understanding of patience that we have ever managed to formulate. There are layers to the Arctic ground. The top layer thaws in summer and freezes again each winter, and everything that happens in that layer belongs to the present tense, to the living world, to the ongoing story. But below that layer is the permafrost ground that has been continuously frozen for thousands of years, some of it for 10,000 years, some of it much longer still. In Siberia, permafrost extends downward more than 4,000 feet in places. In Greenland and the high Canadian Arctic, ancient frozen ground holds within it organic material that has not decomposed, has not changed, has not moved since the moment it was frozen. Seeds found in Siberian permafrost have been thawed and germinated tens of thousands of years after they were deposited. Frozen mammoths have emerged from riverbanks, so perfectly preserved that their stomach contents were still identifiable. The flowers they had been eating in the last hours before the cold took them, the grasses, the pollen of a world that had not existed for 12,000 years, suddenly available again to the light. The ice does not allow things to end. It simply allows them to wait. This matters, and it matters in a way that is not merely scientific, but somehow intimate, because the land we are moving through tonight has been inhabited by human beings for a length of time that makes our ordinary sense of history feel very compressed and very young. Greenland has been inhabited in overlapping waves of people for approximately 4,500 years. 4.5 millennia of human life in one of the most extreme environments this planet offers. 4,500 years of fires made, of children born, of songs sung and drums played, and stories told in the long dark of winters exactly like this one. All of it still here, in some layer, in some form, waiting with the patience of very cold things for someone patient enough to find it. The first people, the Sakat culture, arrived by crossing the frozen straits from North America sometime around 2,500 years before the Common Era. They came following the coastline of what is now northern Canada and crossing the narrow frozen passage near what we now call Thule in the very north of Greenland. A crossing requiring extraordinary nerve and skill, and something harder to name than either, some quality of human forward motion that insists the other side of what you can see is worth the cost of getting there. We do not know what they were looking for. We do not know whether they intended to stay or arrived and discovered that staying was what the place required. We know only that they were there, and that they spread south down the coasts, and that they built their lives in the rock-cut bays and sheltered fjords, hunting the sea mammals and the birds and the caribou that the land offered, developing technologies for surviving cold that the rest of the world had not needed to imagine. The Sakak were followed, in the long rhythm of Arctic prehistory, by the independence cultures of the far north people who lived so far from any tree that they built their dwellings from stone and bone and whatever the land itself could provide, and who somehow survived in conditions that would seem to preclude survival. Then the Dorset people arrived, spreading down from the high Arctic, building their communities into the ice-cut rock of the shoreline with a sophistication we are only beginning to appreciate. The Dorset developed stone lamps burning sea mammal oil, producing enough heat and light to make a single-room dwelling habitable in temperatures that would kill an unprotected person in minutes. They developed clothing technologies, managing moisture and retaining warmth with an efficiency that modern outdoor equipment manufacturers are, not entirely facetiously, still trying to fully replicate. They built snow houses and semi-subterranean stone houses and skin tents for different seasons and different purposes, each form perfectly suited to its conditions, each carrying within its design centuries of accumulated knowledge about the specific challenges of the specific place. And they made art. The Dorset carved extraordinary objects from bone and ivory and antler, small, precise, intensely detailed figures of animals and humans and things that are neither, that exist at the uncertain edge between the natural world and the world behind the natural world. They carved masks, tiny miniature masks barely larger than a thumb, with features that remain expressive across the centuries. They carved bears in the process of transforming into human forms, or human forms becoming bears, the boundary between species rendered ambiguous, made it negotiable, as if the carver understood that the categories we maintain between human and animal are useful fictions, and that the world behind them is more continuous and more fluid. They carved tiny faces, some recognizably human, some not quite, whose eyes have an expression that is difficult to name. Something between awareness and inquiry, something that seems to be looking back at whoever holds the figure with a curiosity equal to their own. These objects were made to be held. You can feel that in their scale, in the smoothness worn into them by the hands that made and used them, and perhaps pressed them briefly in moments of need. The Dorset disappeared from most of Greenland by around the 13th century. Their settlements were empty. Their tools were left behind. Their carved figures were still in the places someone laid them down carefully, deliberately, as if they expected to return. And they did not return. But the ground still holds what they left. The permafrost still holds their lamp oil, their animal bones, the microscopic pollen of the plants that grew near their dwellings. Their carved bears and their tiny faces still emerge from the frozen ground in the 21st century, handed to archaeologists by the retreating ice with the same impersonal care with which the ice accepts everything. Then came the Thule people, ancestors of the modern Greenlandic Inuit, who swept eastward across the Arctic from Alaska, beginning around the year 1000 of the Common Era. They came following the bowhead whale migration routes, and the Thule possessed technologies no previous Arctic people had combined in quite the same way. The umiak, the large, open-skin boat capable of carrying 15 people and their equipment across open Arctic water, and the dog sled, which allowed land travel at speeds and distances that transformed the logistics of Arctic life entirely. They arrived in northern Greenland around 1200 and pressed southward, and what they found in the south of the island surprised them. Strange people, tall people, people with pale eyes, and hair that ranged from deep black to a startling red, who built their houses from stone and turf in a way the Thule had never seen, who kept large horned animals, who worshipped in stone buildings of unusual height and silence. The Norse, Eric the Red, sailed west from Iceland in 982, having been exiled for 3 years following a series of violent disputes. He had heard from another sailor who had been blown off course that there was land to the west, land actually sighted, coastline confirmed. He sailed toward it with the audacious, slightly defiant energy of someone who has been told to leave and has decided that leaving means going somewhere interesting. He found the southwestern coast of Greenland. He spent his 3 years of exile exploring the island's coast, wintering in the sheltered fjords of the southwest, where the water moderates the temperature enough to make farming marginally possible, where grass grows in summer and animals can be kept alive through winter with enough hay. He named the place Greenland optimistically, emphasizing the best of what was available and not dwelling on the rest. And when he sailed back to Iceland at the end of his exile, he told people about the green valleys and the sheltered fjords and the open land waiting for whoever arrived first to claim it. They came, 14 ships in the first wave, 4 of which were lost in storms, 10 arriving safely. That group established the first Norse farms. More followed over the years, and within a generation there were 2 main settlement areas on Greenland's western coast. The eastern settlement, in the far south, the largest, home to the cathedral town of Gardar, and eventually to perhaps 4,000 people at its height. The western settlement further up the coast, in the area of the modern capital Nuuk, home to another 1,000 or so, in farms scattered across the fjords. Life there was hard in the way. All subsistence, farming in a marginal climate, is hard, requiring constant attention, considerable skill, the willingness to adapt when circumstances required, and the constant awareness that the gap between managing and not managing was sometimes very narrow. The Norse Greenlanders kept cattle and sheep and goats and grew small amounts of grain where the land allowed. They made cheese and butter and skyr, the cultured dairy products Scandinavia still makes today. They fished the extraordinary richness of the North Atlantic and hunted seals and walruses along the coast. And in summer, they mounted expeditions northward, far above the Arctic Circle, to the walrus hunting grounds at Disco Bay and beyond, in open boats through waters clogged with pack ice, covering distances that make you catch your breath when you read them. The western settlement to Disco Bay was a 30-day rowing journey each way. The eastern settlement was 50 days from those same hunting grounds. 50 days of rowing through Arctic conditions in an open boat to get to where the walruses were, and then 50 days back. They did this because walrus provided ivory, and ivory was the lifeline of North Greenland's economy. Walrus tusks were luxury goods in medieval Europe, used for carving chess pieces and decorative handles and religious objects, valued almost as highly as elephant ivory. Norse Greenland had an effectively unlimited supply of them, and traded them for the things the island could not provide: timber, which Greenland entirely lacked, iron, grain, and the occasional live animal, because among the most remarkable exports from Norse Greenland to European courts were live polar bears, which fetched extraordinary sums as gifts between royalty, enormous white animals padding through the straw of Norwegian winter palaces, tokens of a world impossibly far away. The Norse built churches, not just simple chapels, but stone churches of real architectural ambition. The church at Havelsey, the farmstead established around 985 by Thorkel Farsirk, cousin of Eric the Red, on the fjord of the same name, had walls that rose 5 to 6 meters high, built by stonemasons, whose technique shows strong similarities to Orcadian and Norwegian work. The stones were fitted together without mortar, with a precision that has allowed those walls to hold their arrangement for more than 600 years without maintenance. The roof was timber and turf, and is long gone. But the walls stand, the doorway stands, the window openings stand. And standing there, in the roofless shell of the building, with a fjord visible through the gaps where windows once held glass and the sky enormous above where the roof used to be, you can feel very precisely how serious this place was, how much effort, how much intention, how much faith was invested in making it. The Norse Greenlanders were Christians, connected tenuously, expensively, across an ocean that was becoming less navigable as the climate changed to a European institution whose logistics shaped everything. Bishops were appointed in Norway. The church collected tithes. The last bishop to actually travel to Greenland and take up residence was a man named Alf, who died there in 1378 and was never replaced by anyone willing to make the journey. From 1378 onward, the Greenland Norse had no bishop, had no regular contact with a church hierarchy that structured their civic and spiritual life. And the ships from Norway and Iceland came less often, and then rarely, and then not at all. In 1379, according to the Icelandic annals, the Inuit killed 18 Norse Greenlanders and enslaved 2 servants. 18 dead out of a total population that may have been only 2,000 or 3,000 by then. A significant loss. And around the same time, a Norwegian church administrator named Ivar Barderson, who was stationed in the eastern settlement, received word that the western settlement had gone silent. He gathered men and sailed north to investigate. When he arrived, he found it empty. No Norse people, no Inuit, no sign of violence. The livestock were still in the barns. The tools were still where they had been left. The farmhouses were intact, but the people were gone, completely, as if they had stepped outside to look at something and simply never returned. Ivar Barderson and his men fled back south. The eastern settlement persisted for a while longer. The last people we know to have visited reported the wedding at Falsey Church in 1408, a proper Norse wedding with Norse priests and Norse rites, and the full ceremony of a culture that still, in that moment, knew exactly who it was and how things were supposed to be done. The Icelanders who witnessed it sailed home in 1410. That is the last news of Norse Greenland. The last sound from the last people in the last settlement to hold on. After that, silence. The churches continued to stand. The farmhouses continued to sit in their valleys. The crosses in the cemeteries planted in the permafrost that would hold them upright for centuries, continued to point upward toward the Greenlandic sky. But the fires in the hearths were out. The music had stopped. What actually happened? The answer, as best as archaeology and climate science and paleoecology have been able to reconstruct it, is that multiple things happened at once. The Little Ice Age was advancing a genuine global cooling that began showing its effects in Greenland from around 1300, shortening the growing seasons, reducing the nutritional value of the grasses the livestock needed, advancing the sea ice earlier each year and retreating it later, closing the navigational window that connected Greenland to Iceland to Norway. The walrus ivory trade was collapsing because West African elephant ivory was reaching European markets in increasing quantities, and the long, dangerous Greenland voyages were no longer economically viable. The Thule Inuit, whose technologies were better adapted to the increasingly harsh conditions, were pressing southward and competing for the same hunting grounds. Disease may have played a role. The Black Death reached Iceland in 1402 and killed roughly half the population there, and whether it reached Greenland we do not know. But the loss of the Icelandic trading partners was itself a wound that did not heal, and through all of it, the ships stopped coming. The ships were the only thing that could replenish what Greenland could not produce itself: the timber, the iron, the connection to a larger world that made 5,000 people in a remote Arctic colony feel like something more than castaways. When the ship stopped, the colony was complete in its isolation. It was only itself, only the island and the ice, and the fjords, and the shrinking farms. And whatever that was, it was not, ultimately, enough. The settlement did not collapse overnight. It wound down the way things wind down when there is nothing dramatic enough to make anyone act quickly, slowly, season by season, farm by farm, until there were not enough people left to constitute a community, and then not enough to constitute a household, and then not enough to constitute a reason to stay. And the last person, whoever they were, did whatever was last for them, in whatever way that happened, and was gone. The stone walls of Housie Church have been standing since before the last Norse Greenland wedding, and they will be standing for as long as stone lasts in a climate that keeps changing its mind about the rules. They are a record, not a failure. The word failure seems wrong. For 500 years of human life, in one of the most extreme places people have ever chosen to inhabit, but of completion, of something that had its full duration and ended, the way all things end, and left behind what it built, and the ground remembers. Here is something that matters, because we're building toward the music now, and the music is where the Sleeping Kingdom's pulse lives, where you will feel it most directly if you let yourself grow still enough. But first, let me tell you what it felt like to live there, not the archaeology of it, not the records and the ruins, but the dailiness of it, which is what matters in the end when you're trying to understand what a life was. A Norse Greenland farm in the 13th century, in the long middle period of the settlement before the worst of the decline, was an extraordinarily self-contained world. The main longhouse was a low, turf-roofed structure, built partly into the hillside to take advantage of the earth's insulating capacity. Its thick stone and turf walls, absorbing warmth in summer and releasing it slowly through winter. Its design a product of centuries of Scandinavian refinement of exactly this problem. How do you keep people alive and warm in a climate that actively resists human habitation? The answer involved layering stone outer walls, turf packing, stone inner walls, and it involved the livestock. The animals were not merely food and labor, and products of wool and milk. In a Greenland winter, the animals were heating. The byre was attached directly to the longhouse, and the warmth of cows and sheep and goats in an enclosed space combined with the heat of their bodies and their breath, contributed meaningfully to the temperature of the rooms beside them. The smell was part of the bargain. The warmth was the compensation. The central hearth was the emotional and physical heart of the longhouse. Built on the floor, open no chimney in the early period, the smoke rising to escape through a hole in the roof, the hearth produced not only heat, but light. The firelight shifting constantly across the low ceiling and the walls and the faces of the people arranged around it on the sleeping benches. There were no windows in the North Greenland longhouse that would have admitted meaningful light without also admitting unacceptable cold. What light there was came from the fire and from the stone oil lamps, shallow bowls of soapstone holding rendered seal or whale fat, a wick of twisted cotton grass or moss, producing a small, steady, ember flame that could be managed and moved and positioned on a shelf where it would be most useful. This was the light of a North Greenland winter. Ember, warm in color, if not in quantity, producing pools of usable visibility surrounded by deeper shadow, requiring the people in the room to cluster around the light sources, and in clustering, to be close together, to be present with one another in a way that are electrically lit, separately roomed, individually screened lives have made largely unnecessary. This physical closeness shaped everything. The stories were told to people who were close enough to touch. The music was played to people who were close enough to feel the vibration of the strings in the air between them. When someone was sick, everyone knew it immediately and physically, not from a notification, not from a text, but from being in the same room, from sharing the same air, from the unavoidable, intimate closeness of the enclosed winter space. When someone was happy, that too was immediate and physical and present in the room for everyone. When someone was frightened or grieving or exhausted in the bone-deep way that Arctic winters produce, that was there too. There, in the amber light and the smell of animals and the sound of wind on the turf roof, there, and inescapable, and, consequently, addressed. People could not ignore what was in the room with them, because the room was small and the winter was long, and pretending was a luxury the conditions could not support. This is not to make the North Greenland longhouse sound like some paradise of authentic human connection. It was also, by every indication, exhausting, frequently cold, despite best efforts, socially difficult, in the way all small enclosed groups in difficult conditions are socially difficult, and periodically terrifying. When the weather was bad enough and the food supplies were running low and the ships hadn't come and the summer had been shorter than expected, it was hard. The hardness was real. But within the hardness, there was a closeness that we have mostly traded away for comfort. And on certain winter nights, when the fire was good, and the food was adequate, and the wind had stilled, and someone had picked up the lyre and begun to play on those nights, the closeness was not oppressive, but complete. Everyone in that room was present for everyone else. No one was anywhere else. There was nowhere else to be. The last people in North Greenland knew this quality of winter closeness, lived inside it, and then they were gone, and the stone rooms that had held that warmth stood empty, and the cold that had always been held at bay came in at last and took up residence where the fires had been, and settled there permanently, and is there still. The North Greenlanders played the lyre. They played it in their longhouses during the long winters, on the sleeping benches around the central hearth, while the fire produced its shifting amber light and the sound of wind pressed against the turf walls, and the smell of the animals stabled in the adjacent byre, drifted through and made the whole structure warm. The lyre was a small, wooden, handheld instrument, oblong in shape. 6 strings made from sheep gut stretched over a wooden soundbox, plucked or strummed with one hand while the other arm cradled the body. Fragments of 18 lyres have been found across Scandinavia and its colonies. Not complete instruments, just fragments of dark, ancient wood, pieces of soundboxes. The suggestion of a tuning peg, splinters of the bridge, but enough to reconstruct the shape of the whole and enough to imagine in the sound. The Norse also played the tagelharpa, a bowed lyre played with a horsehair bow, producing a sound closer to a cello's deeper registers. Dark, resonant, capable of a sustained note that the plucked lyre could never hold, a sound that fills a room differently and stays in the air differently and produces a different quality of feeling in the listener. They played the lyre, long instruments of wood or bronze, whose deep, carrying tones contained in them something of the landscape that produced a tradition, wide open space, wind, the far horizon. They played drums. They played flutes of bone and wood. The skalds were among those who played. The skalds were the poet-performers of Norse culture, the custodians of the culture's memory and self-understanding, the people who held in their trained and capacious minds the accumulated stories of the gods and the heroes and the ancestors, giving them back to the community in the formal, intricate verse structure of skaldic poetry, accompanied by the sustaining of a lyre string, with a rhythm and cadence that listeners could feel in their bodies as well as understand with their minds. In a society where writing existed but was not universally practiced, the skald was the library and the history and the mythology and the newspaper all in one, and the skald sang. Everything worth preserving was preserved in sound. Imagine, here on the edge of this fjord, a winter night in the 13th century, not the deep, desperate last years, but the middle of things, when Norse Greenland was still functioning, still alive. A skald sitting near the hearth in one of the falsy longhouses. The fire is built from driftwood and peat, because Greenland has no useful timber, and everything burnable is precious. The oil lamps, stone bowls holding rendered seal fat, wicks of twisted moss give off their particular amber glow from shelf niches in the wall. Outside, the temperature is below -20. Inside, the combined warmth of 20 or 30 people and the animals in the adjacent byre has brought the air up to somewhere tolerable. And the smell of that warmth, human and animal, and smoke, and rendered fat, and the fermenting dairy smell of skyr being made in a wooden vessel in the corner is not unpleasant. It is the smell of being alive in a cold place. The smell of winter successfully survived, at least so far, at least tonight. The skald adjusts the lyre's tuning cold loosens strings. Cold is the perpetual enemy of every stringed instrument ever made and begins to play something. Not a battle saga tonight, not the great formal recitation with its kennings and its complex metrical structure. Something smaller, something for a winter night with the children almost asleep on the far bench and the adults around the fire half drowsy, half listening. A tune whose name we will never know, composed in that room and heard only by the people in that room, never written down, never carried past the silence that eventually swallowed all of this. It was real. It happened. The sound moved through the air of that room and entered those people and became part of what they felt and carried. And when they are gone, the last echo of it is still somewhere. In some way, that physics allows for, and something in us insists upon, present in the stone of those walls, in the permafrost, beneath that floor, in the air, above that fjord. You cannot hear it, but it happened, and the fact of it happening is permanent now, in a way that cannot be undone. Meanwhile, not far away, close enough in some seasons to be visible from high ground, distant enough in others to constitute separate worlds, the Thule Inuit were playing their own music. The kilaut is the central percussion instrument of Inuit culture. A wooden frame drum strips of wood, bent into a circular shape, sometimes as wide as a meter across, stretched with a membrane of caribou or sealskin, with a handle protruding from the frame. Archaeological drum rims from Sakha culture sites, the very first people to inhabit Greenland 4,500 years ago, have been identified in the frozen ground, meaning that this instrument, or something functionally identical to it, was being played in Greenland from the very beginning of human habitation on the island. 4,500 years of continuous drumming in one place. The specific rhythm may have changed. The specific drum was replaced 10,000 times. But the fundamental gesture, the circular frame held in one hand, the stick striking the rim, the body of the player moving in response to the sound the body is producing, has been present in this landscape without interruption from the moment human beings first arrived. The kilaut is struck on the rim, not the face. This matters to the sound. The sharp, precise, woody knock of the rim struck, followed by the deeper, slower resonance of the stretched skin answering. Like a question and its reply. Like the short intake of breath and the long, complete exhale. A skilled player with a well-made drum in a resonant space produces a sound that travels across frozen tundra with startling clarity, heard and understood at distances that would make ordinary conversation impossible. The player holds the drum by its handle and tilts it, rotating it slightly from side to side in the rhythm, bending at the knees, leaning slightly forward, moving the whole body as the drum moves, because the drum dance is not a performance separate from music, not a body doing one thing while an instrument does another. It is a single continuous expression, the instrument and the player one system, the music inseparable from the movement that produces it. The pizik, the drum song, begins slowly. A long, considered opening, the tempo deliberate, the singer's voice entering gradually, the words touching the actual content of an actual life, a particular hunt, a particular storm, a particular night, exactly like this one, when the cold was exactly this cold, and the aurora was exactly this color, and what was felt was exactly this specific feeling. The song is trying to give precisely back. The songs are not fixed the way written songs are fixed. They have room in them for the present moment, for the actual night, for what is real and true right now to find its way in. The song is living, in the sense that all living things are living different every time, shaped by its conditions, carrying the moment of its making inside it. And then there's katajak, throat singing, the musical practice most specific to the Arctic, most completely the product of this particular environment and this particular way of being in a world of ice and dark and the sound of animals and wind and the long close, improvised intimacy of people who have kept each other warm through every winter they have ever known. Throat singing is performed by two women standing face to face, very close together, close enough that they use each other's body as a resonating chamber, the oral cavity of one singer literally functioning as a sound box for the other, the breath of one entering the sonic space of the other. They repeat brief rhythmic motifs, offset from each other, so that one voice hits the strong beat while the other fills the weak beat, and the result is a single combined sound that seems to come from neither of them, and from both simultaneously, from the space between them, from the air itself. A sound that is layered and pulsing and contains within its specific motifs the natural world of the Arctic rendered as sound, the phrasing of a ptarmigan in heavy snow, the sound of wind moving horizontally over flat ice, the sound of water moving under new ice, that slightly alarming sound of liquid freedom just below the frozen surface, the breathing of caribou in cold air, the silence at the very center of a large snowstorm, where the flakes fall so thick they create their own deadening of sound. The competition ends when one of the singers laughs. This is perhaps the most important piece of information about Katajak, that the game ends in laughter, that the point of the increasingly complex, increasingly close, increasingly interlocked exchange of rhythmic sound is not to outlast the other in grim endurance, but to find, at some particular moment of extreme closeness and precision and shared breath, something that is simply funny, something that tips over into delight, something the body responds to, not with more control, but with the complete, involuntary, unstoppable surrender of laughter. The music leads, intentionally, to the place where music becomes something else entirely, where sound becomes joy. The Greenlandic Inuit drum dancing and singing tradition was designated by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage in 2021, recognized as belonging not just to the Inuit community, but to all of us, to everyone who has ever stood in the dark and been made less alone by a sound someone else was making. And here is something worth carrying with you into your sleep tonight. On the nights when the Norse skald played the lyre in the Halsey Longhouse, and the nights when the Thule drummer played the kilaut in the Kogik not far away, and the nights when the Sakak hunter lay in their dwelling, listening to the wind on the ice while the lamp burned low, on all of those nights, on all of the tens of thousands of individual nights that composed 4,500 years of human life, in this landscape, the aurora was there, above all of it. Moving above all of it, with the same unhurried, indifferent, extraordinary beauty that it moves above you tonight. The same green, the same violet edge, the same slow breathing, the same connection to the same sun, the same magnetic field, the same physics. The aurora that moved above the last skald in the last warm Norse longhouse before the cold came in for good was the same aurora. The aurora that moved above the first Sakak family to make their camp on the Greenland coast 4,500 years ago was the same aurora. The physics did not change. The beauty did not change. The light above all of those sleepings was the same light, and it is the same light above you tonight. You are under the same light. Here is what I want you to understand, and I want you to understand it not only with your mind, but with the part of you that understands things more directly than thinking does, the part that receives rather than analyses. All of this is still here. That is the extraordinary fact about this landscape. That is what the permafrost means, what the ice means, what 4,500 years of continuous human habitation means when it occurs in a place cold enough to preserve rather than dissolve. Everything that happened here is still here, in some layer, in some form, waiting with the patience of very cold things for someone patient enough to find it. There is a concept in physics, in the physics of sound, specifically that I want to offer you here, not as a strict fact, but as a way of imagining the relationship between the present moment and the accumulated moments that preceded it in a place like this one. Sound is a mechanical wave. It is a disturbance in a medium air, or water, or frozen ground that propagates outward from its source, carrying energy. When a drum is struck, the air around it is compressed and expanded in a rapid, rhythmic pattern that travels outward in all directions until that energy is absorbed by the environment, by the molecules of air, the surfaces of rock, the dense medium of packed snow and frozen earth. The sound, technically, never entirely disappears. It degrades. It attenuates. It eventually falls below the threshold of anything that can detect it. But the energy does not vanish. It becomes heat, infinitesimally small amounts of heat distributed through the medium it has passed through. And the medium is different, in some irreducibly tiny but physically real way, for having received it. The drum that was struck 4,000 years ago in the place where you are standing changed this air, changed this ground, changed this rock. By amounts so small they are practically nothing. By fractions so minute they approach the territory of metaphor rather than measurement. But in strict physical terms, the sound was real, and the energy was real, and the environment that absorbed it was changed by the absorption, and is different now from what it would have been if the drum had never sounded, and that difference will never be exactly zero, however small it becomes. The kingdom sleeps beneath you, and the music it made is in the ground. In some irreducible, technical, physically real sense, the music is in the ground. The Norse farmhouses, hundreds of ruins across the fjords of southwest Greenland, some showing their full wall height, all of them holding within their preserved organic layers the record of what was consumed and made, and how the rooms were arranged, and what the animals were, and what the people ate, and how they changed their diet over the generations as the climate changed and the ships stopped coming. The carved Dorset faces, still emerging from excavation sites, still arriving in archaeologists' hands, with their tool marks as fresh as the day they were made, which was 1,000 years ago or more. The sakak middens the accumulated refuse of daily life from people who lived here 3,000 and 4,000 years ago, preserved in the frozen ground with the fidelity of a very careful archive. Bone tools, animal remains. The chemical signatures of plant material, long since physically gone, but traceable in the sediments by the molecules they left behind. The permafrost is giving these things up right now, today, as the temperatures rise and the ice that has held everything begins to soften its grip. Archaeologists across the Arctic describe a peculiar double experience: the thrill of finding objects sealed away for millennia, and the horror of knowing that the same warmth freeing them from the ice begins destroying them the moment they are free. A site exposed by a retreating glacier is simultaneously a gift and a wound. Objects emerge that have not seen light in 10,000 years, and they have minutes or hours in which to be documented before the open air begins to break them down. The race to find what the ice is releasing before the air destroys it is one of the quieter emergencies of our current moment, the one least likely to make the news and most likely to cost us something we cannot recover. But tonight, in the story we are holding together, in the quiet space being built between us, in the dark as your body grows heavier and your thoughts grow softer, and the world outside, this voice recedes very gently. The ice is holding, the permafrost is intact. The dark ground beneath the aurora is frozen and patient and vast, and it holds everything it has ever been given, and the kingdom sleeps completely, unhurried, without any urgency to be found before it is lost. Come with me now to the edge of a specific fjord. It is long, as they always are here, the fjords of Greenland being geological events on a scale that makes ordinary landscapes seem like a rehearsal. This fjord was cut by a glacier a mile thick, moving with a force that ground solid granite to dust over millions of years and left behind walls that drop vertically from heights of 800 to 1,000 feet into water that is cold and deep, and the particular color of deep Arctic fjords. Not quite blue, not quite black. Something ancient and opaque that seems to have absorbed 10,000 years of reflected sky and holds all of it in its depths without giving any of it back. The walls of the fjord are streaked with white frozen waterfalls that have stopped in their falling and will not move again until summer arrives. At the water's edge, the sea is beginning to freeze. Not in the center where the current moves and prevents it, but at the margins, where the water is still. Thin panes of new ice are forming, transparent as glass at first, then clouding over as they thicken, growing outward from the shore, with a slowness that only becomes visible when you stop and watch. The sound of this, the sound of water becoming ice, is a low, satisfied creaking, like a house settling contentedly into its foundations at the end of a long day. It is not alarming. It is not urgent. It is the sound of something becoming more itself. At the far end of the fjord, half visible through the fine, absolutely vertical snow that has been falling since before you arrived, not driven, not horizontal, just falling. In the utterly windless air, each flake making its own singular, unhurried decision about where to land, there is a shape, a low shape, not large, but unmistakably made. Stone walls following the land's contour with a specific intelligence of builders who understood this place and worked with it rather than against it. A doorway that still reads as a doorway from this distance, through this snow, across this span of time. The lintel stone is in place. The threshold stone is there, worn smooth in its center from the passing of feet that have not crossed it in 600 years, but worn nonetheless, worn in a way that is permanent now, a record. An epitaph in polished stone for everyone who ever crossed in and out of that particular door. The snow falls on the threshold the same way it falls everywhere else. Above the fjord, above the dark water, and the old stone walls, and the perfectly vertical falling snow, the aurora has returned. Not the full display of earlier, that was the night's declaration of itself. This is something quieter, a single broad band of green, stretching from one wall of the fjord to the other, hanging there with a steadiness that is almost solid, almost architectural, almost something you could lean against. It does not flicker now. It breathes, slowly and deeply, brightening and dimming, in a rhythm too slow to call a pulse, but too regular to be random. The rhythm of deep sleep, the rhythm of the long, even breathing of something very large that has been asleep for a very long time and is not close to waking. The snow falls through the light, and each flake catches a fraction of the aurora's green for the half-second of its descent, brief and jewel-like, before it lands and returns to white. The ice at the fjord edge catches the green and holds it differently, adding the metallic quality of new ice to the living quality of the light, making something that is both of those things and neither of them entirely. And beneath where you are standing, beneath the snow, beneath the turf, beneath the frost-broken surface layer and the deeper permafrost below, in some layer, in some specific stratum of frozen time, there is a drum. Not a sound, not a vibration, just the object, a wooden frame, the skin long gone. But the wooden frame itself, still in the rough circular shape it was bent into by hands whose names are not recorded, in a season and a year we can only approximate, by a person who had reasons we cannot access, and feelings we cannot recover, who held this drum and struck it, and stood somewhere not far from here, and and made a sound that moved out across the ice and the water and was absorbed by the rock walls of the fjord and the dark sky above, and is gone the way all sounds are. Gone, but the drum is here. The fact of it is here. Its wooden being is in the frozen ground with the same patient stubbornness that characterizes everything that has decided to stay. Now, I want you to come to rest. I want you to settle into the most comfortable arrangement you know. Shift if you need to. Let the pillow find the right angle under your head. Let the blanket settle across you with this particular weight that is neither too heavy nor too light, but exactly the weight of warmth. You are done with decisions for tonight. You are done with effort. The only thing left is the letting go. And the letting go requires nothing from you except the willingness to allow it. The snow falls on the sleeping kingdom at the end of this fjord, very gently, without urgency. The aurora breathes above it. The ice keeps growing outward from the shore, by millimeters, patiently. The drum in the permafrost does not stir. The stone walls of the old farmhouse hold their arrangement in the dark. And you are here, resting at the edge of all of this, resting in good company, because this landscape has held so many people in their resting, has held so many bodies through so many winters, has offered its darkness and its cold and its extraordinary, impossible, moving light to generation after generation of people who lay down at the end of their day and gave themselves to the dark and expected, in the deepest and most animal part of themselves, to wake again. The body knows, when it is allowed to know it, that rest is not the absence of something. It is not what happens when the real things have stopped. Rest is one of the real things. It is one of the most necessary and most precisely engineered processes that the body runs. The repair of tissue, the consolidation of memory, the restoration of chemical balances that the waking day depletes, the deep and complex work of being alive that can only happen when you are no longer doing anything else. Your body is doing this work right now. It has been waiting to do it, patiently, through the day. And now the day is over. And now it can begin. There is something the Inuit knew, and the Norse knew, and the Dorset knew, and every people who have ever spent long Arctic winters in close, lamplit spaces have known, which is that the dark is not your adversary. The dark is your collaborator. The dark is what makes the rest possible. The total dark of a polar winter night, the sealing off of the world, the closing of the lid on the day and its demands and its noise and its requirements. Without the dark, there is no real rest. Without the dark, there is no real sleep. And the dark here, above the sleeping kingdom, is as complete and as old and as generous as it has ever been. It is offering itself to you now, the way it has always offered itself, without condition, without asking what you did today or whether you deserve it, simply present and open and wide and deep enough to receive you entirely. Let it begin. The cold is not here with you tonight. The ice is not here with you. What is here with you is the warmth of the blanket and the softness of what holds you, and the sound of a voice that asks nothing of you except this, that you let the weight of your limbs go, that you stop holding your jaw set, that you release the small, unconscious grip your hands have been maintaining on themselves, or on the blanket, or on nothing at all, just the habit of tension, the reflex of readiness that the day requires and the night doesn't. Let that go. Feel your hands open slightly. Feel your jaw loosen. Feel the particular weight of your own eyelids and the particular ease of allowing them to be heavy. The snow outside, wherever you imagine it to be falling, is falling still, unhurried, exactly vertical. Each crystal making its individual journey downward, arriving, adding its weight to the accumulating white, changing the shape of the world by the tiniest increments, grain by grain, in the slowest and most thorough and most complete way that the world is ever changed. That is the pace of tonight. That is the pace of what is happening to you right now, grain by grain, crystal by crystal. The small and patient addition of rest, deepening you slowly, thoroughly, completely. The Sakak hunter who had been out on the sea ice for 3 days tracking a seal, who had lain completely still in temperatures that would kill unprotected flesh in minutes, sustained by clothing technology that is still some of the most effective cold weather protection human beings have ever devised. When that person came home and the kayak was secured and the lamp was burning with the oil from that day's hunt, they sank into their sleeping platform with a depth and completeness that the merely tired cannot access. The full weight of extended effort and extended cold and extended relief all resolved at once into horizontal stillness. They slept here. The Dorset carver, who had been working the ivory for days, producing one of those small, precise, expressive bears that archaeologists find in the ground centuries later and look at for a long time without quite being able to say what they are feeling when the carver put the tools down. When the lamplight was banked to its lowest, when the sound of the wind outside changed from the active sound of a storm to the passive sound of cold air resting, they slept here. They rested in the same dark. They gave their breathing over to the same slow rhythm. The Norsewoman at Falsey, who owned the whalebone ironing board, and the glass smoother that archaeologists found in the ruins, who pressed linen in a stone farmhouse at the edge of the world, who maintained the standards of a civilization at its furthest possible reach, who was 700 miles from the nearest European outpost, and surrounded by ice and dark, and the slowly advancing knowledge that the ships were coming less and less often. She put the smoother down. She banked the fire. She felt the cold pressing at the good stone walls and pulled her blanket over herself, and was, for the space of the night, nothing more than a person sleeping in the dark, under the aurora, breathing slowly, going somewhere else entirely, somewhere the cold could not reach and the ships did not matter. The Thule drum dancer, who had played until the fire was low and the song had run its full course, and the other people in the kajik, the communal house built for exactly these winter gatherings, had settled into their furs one by one, still humming occasionally, the song still in them, even as sleep came. That person let the drum rest against the wall, felt the warmth that 30 bodies had made together in the enclosed space, felt the oil lamp's light soften further as the fuel ran lower and went under. And the aurora was there, above the snow roof, and the drum rested. And the kingdom kept its patience. You are in good company. You have always been in good company, even in the nights that felt most solitary, even in the darkest and coldest of them. You have been part of this long record of human beings, lying down at the end of their days and going somewhere else for a while, and returning changed in some small, essential way to the world. You are part of that long, continuous act. Think of how many people, in this landscape alone, have done exactly what you are doing right now, have lain down in the dark, have felt the warmth close around them, have listened to the sound of wind or silence, or the slow creak of ice or the breathing of animals nearby, and have felt their thoughts begin to slow and their muscles begin to release and their awareness begin to soften at its edges. Thousands of people, over 4,500 years, in the exact same dark, some of them frightened, with real reason to be the winter bearing down, the food uncertain, the cold implacable outside the walls. Some of them at peace, settled, warm, having done what the day required and having enough. Some of them carrying grief, some of them carrying joy. All of them, at the end of it, in the dark, breathing slowly, going under. The skald with the lyre, the Dorset carver with the ivory face, the Sakak hunter whose kayak was secured against the wind, the Norse bishop who visited Gardar one last time before the sea was left empty, the Thule woman whose katajak had made the room laugh for the last time before everyone slept, the anonymous farmer at Havelsey who crossed that threshold stone and pulled the door closed against the winter and lay down on the sleeping bench and thought, or did not think, whatever the last thought was before sleep came. You are lying down in the same darkness that has always been there, the same darkness that has received all of these and has never failed to return them to morning and will not fail tonight. The aurora is very gentle now. That broad band of green that stretched from wall to wall across the fjord has diffused and softened, its edges dissolving into the dark sky, so gradually it becomes difficult to say where the light ends and where the night begins. It is still there, still breathing, still present, still that low luminous green that is almost the color of deep seawater and not quite. Almost a color of new leaves and not quite, entirely its own color, without adequate comparison. It covers the sleeping farmhouse and the sleeping fjord, and the snow that falls through it in a light so gentle it barely qualifies as light, more like a quality of the darkness than an illumination of it. And it is enough. It is, tonight, exactly enough. There is a quality that very old places have, places that have absorbed a great deal of human life over a great deal of time that is difficult to name, but immediately recognizable when you encounter it. It is not exactly a sense of presence. It is not a ghost, not a haunting, not anything supernatural in the way that word usually implies. It is more like a density, a richness in the air and the ground, a weight of accumulated experience that makes the present moment feel less isolated, less thin, less alone. Ancient buildings have it, churches that have been used for centuries, temples where the same prayers have been offered in the same stone space for 1,000 years. Old forests have it, where the trees have been growing and dying and growing again in the same soil for centuries, and the soil itself is a record of all of it, a deep, dark, layered archive. The permafrost of the high Arctic has it in a form perhaps more concentrated than anywhere else on Earth, because the cold has kept not just the feeling of accumulated life, but the physical evidence of it, the actual objects, the actual molecules, the actual bones and tools and carvings and seeds. You are resting in that density tonight. You are resting in a place that has held so much, that is holding is itself a kind of presence, a weight that is not oppressive but grounding, a sense of being part of something continuous and very long. The dark above Greenland's fjords has seen 4,500 years of human breathing, 4,500 years of people closing their eyes in that specific dark and surrendering to it and trusting it. The aurora has moved above every one of those sleepings. The snow has fallen on every one of those sleeping places, and the permafrost has kept the record of all of it, carefully, completely, without preference or judgment, the way the best kind of keeping is done. The sound of the ice at the fjord's edge has stopped. The growing is done for this hour, this particular inch of new ice having found its resting position. There is no wind anywhere. The snow falls in perfectly vertical lines, unhurried as slow thought, settling on the stone walls and the threshold stone and the permafrost beneath and the drum the permafrost holds and the ancient faces it holds and the bone tools and the lamp oil and the chemical memories of pollen from plants that haven't grown here for 1,000 years, settling on all of it the same way, with the same impartiality, the same quiet, continuous covering that snow offers everything it reaches. The kingdom sleeps, and you sleep with it now. Your breath is slower. It has been slowing for a while, without you having to do anything about it, settling into the long rhythm the sleeping body finds naturally when nothing is asked of it, when the day has truly ended, and the dark has truly arrived. Each breath is a little further from the last. Each exhale carries you a little further from the lit and effortful country of waking into the wide, unhurried dark that is rest. The kind of rest that doesn't ask you to do anything, not even to be aware of resting, not even to monitor whether it's working. It is working. It works the way the ice works, the way the dark works, the way the aurora works. Without you, perfectly, continuously, whether you are watching or not. Notice, if you're still in the part of the night where noticing is something you can do without effort. Notice that your thoughts have changed quality. They are not the thoughts of earlier in the evening. They do not have the same edges, the same insistence, the same tendency to require a response. They are becoming something more passive, more receptive, images rather than sentences. The suggestion of something rather than the thing itself. The quality of what is there just before sleep, which is one of the most extraordinary cognitive states human beings experience, and which we almost entirely ignore because we are always in such a hurry to get past it to unconsciousness. There is a name for it, the hypnagogic state, from the Greek for sleep leading the borderland between waking and sleeping, where the rules of both apply loosely and neither applies fully, where images form and dissolve without logic, where a face can become a landscape, and a landscape can become a sound without any transition you can point to, where the mind is most free and least effortful, and most genuinely itself. You are near that place now. Let yourself drift toward it. The snow is still falling on the sleeping kingdom. The aurora is still breathing above it. The drum in the frozen ground is still. The carved faces in the permafrost are still. The worn threshold of Halsey is still, receiving the snow the same way it receives everything, without preference, without resistance, without the slightest objection to the passage of time. The ice at the fjord edge has grown another fraction of a millimeter since you arrived. Imperceptible, patient, certain. You are growing quieter too, in exactly the same way, fraction by fraction. The edges of consciousness softening like the edges of the aurora band dissolving into the dark sky, becoming less defined, less insistent on their own sharpness. You do not have to help this along. You do not have to accelerate it. It is already happening. It has been happening since you closed your eyes. Let it happen. The sleeping kingdom holds you in its patience, and its cold, and its extraordinary, continuous, ever-present light. You are held here by the cold, paradoxically because cold holds things, because the permafrost holds the drum and the carved faces, and the memory of every fire and every song, and the aurora holds the chemistry of every solar wind, and the stone walls of the farmhouse hold the shape of what was built there 600 years ago. And you are held, too, by everything that has ever known how to hold something, by everything that has ever offered its patience to something that needed keeping, Think of what the ice has kept. The last meal of a mammoth, flowering grasses in the gut of an animal 12,000 years dead. Still identifiable, still nourishing in some sense to the scientists who found them. Still telling the story of an afternoon in a world that no longer exists. The face of a Dorset bear, carved by someone who has been gone for 1,000 years, still expressive, still carrying whatever quality the carver gave it, still looking back at whoever holds it with the same question in its eyes. The wooden curve of a drum frame, still curved in exactly the shape it was bent into by hands we know nothing about, except that they bent wood into a circle so that music could be made. And the wood held that intention through 4 millennia and holds it still. What the ice keeps, it keeps completely. You are going somewhere the ice cannot follow, into the deep country of sleep, where nothing keeps anything, and everything is simply happening or not happening in the moment and the moment after that. But you will return from there, as everyone does, as everyone who has ever lain down in this long dark has returned. And when you return, you will be something slightly different from what you were when you left. Rested, repaired, the accumulated fatigue of the day metabolized and released. The small accumulation of what is wrong with you physically and emotionally and chemically and structurally, all attended to in the dark by the body's own expertise, by the extraordinary, ancient, self-sufficient intelligence of a system that has been doing this work since long before anyone understood what it was doing. You do not have to understand it. You only have to allow it. The sleeping kingdom breathes. The aurora breathes. The snow falls. You breathe. You are safe within this cold and luminous dark. The ice holds everything it has ever been given, and it holds you too. You do not have to carry anything here that you were carrying before you arrived. The aurora asks nothing of you except your willingness to be present, and you have given that already. The snow falls without urgency and without destination. The fjord walls have been standing for 60 million years. The drum in the permafrost has been patient for 4,000 years. You may be patient for just this one night. You are held by something older than the cold and larger than the dark. Your breath is the only sound that matters here. Each exhale carries you a little further from waking. The kingdom does not stir. The aurora does not stop. The snow does not cease. The ice remembers everything that was ever placed in its care. You are allowed to forget the day. You are allowed to go deep. The night is old enough and wide enough and quiet enough to receive everything you give it. The aurora breathes above the fjord, above the sleeping farmhouse, above the ground where the drum rests, and the carved faces wait, and the lamp oil of the Dorset holds its chemical signature in the frozen soil. Above the place where the skald's last song still lives, in the air, if air can keep things. Above the place where the keellout fell, silent, and the throat singers laughed, and the laughing became silence, and the silence became sleep. The snow covers all of it the same way, with the same gentle impartiality, the same unhurried thoroughness. Over the sleeping kingdom, over the aurora, over the stone walls and the frozen threshold, over you. Sleep now, just sleep. You are here. You are held. The kingdom sleeps all around you, and the aurora will still be there when you wake, and the snow will still be falling, and the ice will still be keeping everything it has always kept, and nothing that needed to be preserved will have been lost. Nothing is ever truly lost that was loved in the cold long enough. Nothing is ever truly lost that was made with care and attention in the dark, by someone who knew the dark was long and chose to fill it with something beautiful anyway. A carved face, a drum song, a story told to the people around the fire. A lyre played in a stone room at the furthest edge of the known world, while the aurora moved above the turf roof, and the snow fell outside, and the animals in the byre breathed their warm animal breath, and the children slept on the far bench, and the fire said what fires always say, that warmth is real, that the present moment is real, that being here, exactly here, no other place, no earlier time, no imagined future is enough. That is enough. Whatever today was, whatever it held, whatever you brought with you into this night, it was enough that you were in it. And now it is over. And now you are here, at the edge of the sleeping kingdom, where the aurora breathes, and the snow falls, and the ice holds everything. And the dark is not empty, but full of the accumulated rest of everyone who has ever lain down in it and trusted it to hold them. Trust it. Sleep. You are safe within this cold and luminous dark. The ice holds everything it has ever been given. You do not have to carry anything here. The aurora asks nothing of you. The snow falls without urgency. The fjord is still. You are held by something older and larger than the day behind you. Your breath is the only sound that matters. Each exhale carries you further from waking. The kingdom does not stir. The aurora does not stop. The snow does not pause. The ice remembers everything. You are allowed to forget. You are allowed to go. The aurora breathes. The drum rests. The snow falls and falls and falls softly, endlessly, perfectly, over the sleeping kingdom, over the aurora, over the fjord, over the old stone walls, over the worn threshold, over everything that has ever been here, and everything that is still here, and everything the cold keeps without being asked. Over you. Sleep, my friend. Just sleep. Thank you so much for spending tonight here with me, beneath the ice and the aurora and the endlessly falling snow of the sleeping kingdom. If this story brought you some peace, if it carried you even part of the way toward the rest your body has been waiting all day to offer you, if the old dark of the Arctic, or the sound of a drum no longer sounding, or the green light of the aurora breathing above a fjord of 600-year-old silence gave you something to rest against tonight, then it has done what it was made to do. Sleep well. The kingdom holds. The ice keeps everything. The aurora will be there in the morning, and so will you. If this story meant something to you, please consider leaving a like on this video and subscribing to Moondrift Sleep. It genuinely means the world, and it helps other people who need a quiet voice in the dark find their way here when they need it. Good night.